I am, I had a little bit of a hassle connecting my second camera because I'm going to really need 2 angles today to make sure I get everything in the camera. So, sorry I'm a couple minutes late. Hi Darlene and Debbie, Cindy, Carol, Connie. So glad everyone's been so excited for this, and I've been looking forward to it. Hi, Julie and Marie. Susan, no problem. I know lots of people are going to have to watch this on the replay. That's totally fine. Make sure that everything is going okay. Sometimes it just cuts out a little bit, but it should reconnect right away. I don't know why it does that. It does that when I'm on this internet, but I'm usually able to reconnect, so hopefully we'll be fine. Okay. Awesome. Hey, guys. All right. Hey, Lynn and Laura. Yeah, Katie, like I said, it might cut in and out a couple times, but if I hit the button, it should reconnect right away. So that's what's been happening every week, and I'm not exactly sure why. But welcome to our Sip and Sew, where you grab a drink and we're going to sew. And I'm really excited. Today we're making the Mega Dream Bag, which everyone has been so excited about. So make sure you have your instructions. We're going to be following those along very carefully. Hopefully you guys got unfrozen because I can see the video over here. I know that it froze for a second. All right, so for our Mega Dream Bag today, you guys should have all of your pieces all nice and cut out. Is that a steel beam behind me? No. Do you mean the blue wall? This is a blue wall, but there's no steel beam. Donna, Katie, Missy, awesome. Okay, so I have all of my pieces cut, and I have them kind of laid out into little groups, and I'm going to show you guys real quick. And we're going to orient ourselves with all of these many pieces that we have going on here, and then we're going to get started. So, let's do this. Awesome. Okay, so, today for the Mega Dream Bag, everyone should have their pieces all cut out. And what I did is I kind of arranged my pieces in little piles because I'll deal with those piles at around the same time. So I have my pockets with its coordinating shape flex. I'm going to set that aside. We don't handle that till later. I have my straps and my handles. If you guys are confused by the verbiage in the pattern, the straps are going to be like the long strap, and then the handle is the little piece that you fold around the middle of the strap that you'll actually use. So it does make sense, but I'm like, I use straps and handles interchangeably sometimes, but that's what that means. And we're going to deal with these first. So I'm going to put that over here. And then we have our 2 interfacings, our shape flex and our fusible fleece that go with our outside top and outside bottom. So I have this pile, and then I have my lining and that interfacing. So your lining is going to be the piece that was ½ yard, and then everything else should be cut according to the instructions over here. So I just follow these instructions to cut it out. If you need to catch up, make sure that you cut all those things out, and I'm going to get started on step number 1. And then we also have our zipper, of course. And you have if you got the kit, you'll have a 22-inch zipper. I think the pattern calls for an 18-inch one, and we can cut it down, so that's not a problem. So what we're going to do, and that's like going to be one of the last things we do, is cut down our zipper. So what I need to do, I'm going to turn my iron back on. It's been sitting over here. And we're going to start by pressing our handles. So if you'll see in step A, fold the short ends of the 2.5 by 7 3/4. So that's this little handle guy. Okay, so for mine, I have these blue pieces. Well, the light's kind of washing that out. You can see it's blue. And so we're going to fold the short ends of the 2.5 by 7 3/4 inch handle in to meet at the center wrong sides together and press. And now I'm gonna move my camera so you guys might not see my face. Sorry. Okay, over here. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that for both of these. We're gonna fold them. I'm gonna actually fold it in half first so I know where my center is. Do a light press here. So I know where my center fold is, and I'm gonna fold the two sides in to meet there. So that I have two pieces that are like that. I hope that everyone had a chance to read all the instructions so they're kind of familiar, but if you didn't, I mean, I'll be reading them along with you guys, but I do find it really helpful to, especially when making a bag. I don't do this every time when I'm making like a quilt or something, but I do when I'm making bags is I read the whole pattern first so that I'm familiar with the different steps. If I have any questions, that gets answered right away. Okay, so then once we have that, we're just going to set those two pieces aside. And now we're going to press our shape flex into the center of our straps. So this is going to be my strap fabric. This is your long piece that is 5 by 21 inches. You should have 2 of them. And we have our shape flex as well. And we're going to just roughly iron this in the middle. And I honestly, this might bug some of you and some of you might love this, but I'm not super precise with some of these things. So I'm going to do my best to eyeball the middle. So it's going to go almost to the edges, but not quite. And then you want it about in the middle width-wise. Okay, so I have about 1/4 of an inch on both short sides left. That's not going to have the interfacing. And then I have roughly 1 inch on either side of the long sides. And make sure that you have the fusible side down. Don't want to accidentally get all that glue on your iron. And I'm just going to press this. And for shape flex, they also suggest having like a pressing cloth. And I actually forgot about that. And I just don't really have one. You could use a scrap piece of fabric, I guess. But I most of the time don't use it. So now we have this. It just irons very quickly. You saw how quickly I ran that iron over. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. Eyeball the center. Make sure everything is lined up. And when I'm done with this, I'll slow down in a second and make sure people have a chance to catch up. All right, so now I have this, and we're going to keep pressing. So I'm going to leave that here on the ironing board. Take a little sip of my wine. Make sure you guys have a chance to do that. Next thing that we're going to do is iron the sides of the straps that don't have interfacing so that they kind of meet in the middle. And they won't meet exactly in the middle. There'll be a little bit of a gap right here. But that's how we're going to press it next. I wish I had a camera that also went above my iron, but I only have the one above my cutting table. I feel like that might be more important. I don't know. We'll have to see. These sip and sews are still an experiment. So I'm just feeling where my fabric gets thicker, where the interfacing is, and I'm pulling my fabric up to that edge. So again, I'm being as precise as I can be, but I'm not like being the most careful because it really doesn't matter that much. I just don't want there to be like unnecessary thickness buildup when I'm putting these straps together because these are going to get fairly thick, especially around where the handles are. That will get pretty thick. So I'm just going to warn you guys, you might need a nice new sharp needle for that step. Okay. So when I'm done here, my straps look kind of like this. And then now I'm going to fold it, I'm going to press it in half so that I don't see any raw edges and it's just nice and clean. And I am just loving working with this fabric. This So Wonderful fabric is so wonderful. It's so cute. Oh, Deb, okay, bummer. We try to get those kits out there, and I've noticed usually our packages arrive very quickly, but I noticed that the week that we needed them to arrive on time, a couple people were like, oh, it's been delayed a couple days. So sorry. Now I know to allow at least 2 weeks for kits if we're going to do a sit and sew, or a sew along. Okay, so this is one part I'm being very careful with, making sure that my 2 folded edges are exactly flush so that they meet perfectly right here. Because when I sew those together, I don't want either side to poke out at all. So I am being very careful with that. I have my steam on because I'm working with so many layers, I want to make sure I steam this really nice. And I'm working my hands just right in front of my iron. I'm honestly staying as close as I can to make sure that the folds there are as close as they can be. Okay. So here we have one. I'm going to get my second one done. I already have our next sew along project picked out, and I placed the order for all the kits yesterday, and I'm so excited. They're gonna, if it all arrives when it's supposed to, we'll have it on the live this next week on Wednesday. So if you like these sew alongs and you want to do more of them, make sure you watch that so that you can grab the kit. I ordered enough for 12 kits, so we'll see how it goes, but it's also like 3 weeks before the sew along, and so I'm hoping that if a lot of people want it and they don't get it, then we can have enough time to reorder. Just like we kind of push the Mega Dream Bag back, we'll try to do the same thing. I really want to start using, I want to stock up on some of this So Wonderful fabric because I want to use it to decorate my sewing space. If I ever get around to making a sewing machine cover, which in my new house, my sewing corner is going to be like in the living room. So I think I will want a cover just so that it's like protected and it also looks nice. But I just don't know of a pattern that's as big as my sewing machine. And so that's what's been holding me up. I need to find one. Okay, I have both of my straps finished. Actually, also what I was realizing is, let me see if I have more bobbins, because I think I want, to put a new color on here. A new, I want a peachy thread. Let's see if I can find a spare bobbin, maybe. I thought of it like when it was too late for me to go get any more bobbins, and I don't know if I have more. Oh yeah, I do. Sweet. So make sure you have the thread that you like that will coordinate with your, with the fabric of your bag. So I think I'm going to do, should I do peach or blue? That's what I'm going back and forth about. What do you guys think? I have both. I have, that's too pink. Let's do, no, I like the other one. I have peach or I have blue. So it'll be seen no matter what it is. When we're top stitching the tops of our bags, it'll be blue. My straps are pink, but the blue might look cute as like an accent. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let my blue, I think I'm going to do blue and let it be an accent color. So I'm going to thread a bobbin real quick. I got a peach and I got a blue. I just don't like threading more bobbins than I have to, because then if there's like a ton left over, and then what are you going to do with the rest? Oh, an old-fashioned screen, like you're talking like a room divider thing to block off my sewing corner and redo it. That would be cute. I like that idea. Okay, I'm gonna stop it there. Hopefully that's enough. That's the game you kind of play, right? When you're loading a bobbin with a color you don't use very often. How full do I make it? Okay. Take my white out. Sorry guys, I should have done this before, but I thought of it just like right before when I was dealing with camera issues, so I was like, I might have to do this later. Okay. Give you guys a time to catch up maybe if some of you are behind. All right, got that in here. So the first thing that we're gonna do is just top stitch down both sides of these handles, and then, or both sides of these straps, and then we're gonna put the handles on. So the handles will be very thick, so make sure that you're prepared to sew through lots of layers. Put that back. I'm gonna sew probably like 1/8 of an inch from each side. So very close to the edge, but enough to make it stable. And these stitches will be visible, so make sure you make your line as straight as possible. All right, let's see how this looks. I love it. My goodness, so cute. All right, I'm gonna do the other side. Make sure this has the same seam allowance. Well, it's not really a seam allowance, but the same distance from the edge. I'm curious what you guys think is the most intimidating part about bags. Because I know that they can be intimidating, but I think different people are intimidated by different parts of a bag. So like, is it the zipper? Is it the straps? Is it just the like multiple steps? What is the scariest part of making a bag? Zipper. Okay, everyone's saying zippers. Zippers, getting started. Bags without zippers. They do exist. Less common, but they do exist. Zippers, cutting it out. Oh, Vicky, we didn't even cut it out together. Sorry. This one was pretty easy to cut out, though. It's just a bunch of rectangles. Sometimes bags can have really weird shapes with them, and you might use templates or whatever, but this one was pretty straightforward. I hope you didn't have a hard time with it. Instructions. The straps. I know, I always have to read the instructions like 5 times too. That's why I wanted to everyone to read them ahead of time. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to have my strap here, and I think what I'm going to do is put a pin in the center of my strap so that I know where that is, here. And then I already know where the center of this is because it's where my two folds come together. Yes, I'm stitching on both sides. It just makes it look more even though the other side doesn't need to be stitched together. Okay, center the strap on top of the handle piece. Fold the edges of the handle over the strap, then fold it in half and pin or clip in place. So you're going to need wonder clips for this step. Just pick out 3 wonder clips. It's just because it's too thick for pins to go through. So I'm going to line up my pin with the center of my handle. Take that out. And then you're going to fold these in. Fold the loose, like the raw edges, over. So you see I'm folding the raw edges over. And then I'm going to fold it in half so that these two edges meet. And do you see now where the thickness really builds up? So if you want to make this a little easier so that it's not like unfolding for you, what I'm going to do is I have my center of both marked. Actually, it might be easier if I have one, yes. It's for me to mark this with the pen just so it doesn't go away and it's not going to be seen. Okay. So I'm going to take this over to the iron. I have my center of my straps and my handles both lined up, and I have my straps centered inside of my handles. And I'm going to fold over these raw edges to the inside. And I'm just going to press them. I don't think the instructions say to do that, but I just think it'll be easier to keep it all together if it's not constantly trying to reopen. So this is why I wanted my my strap and my handle to be contrasting but complementary, because you're just going to see them together, and I think this one looks really cute. Katie, I'll pause after I make my first strap, so if people are following along with me, you can do that, and if you're not, then I'll go a little bit slower on my next strap, okay? All right, so here I have this, and now I'm going to fold it in half again, and that's why it gets really thick, and I'm going to hold it in place with wonder clips. And you also want to make sure that your edges of your handles line up perfectly, because you're going to be able to see that. Okay, so this is what we have, and I made sure that my handle edges right here both line up with each other, and my edge along here lines up with each other. Okay, and we're gonna sew that in like a little rectangle box on all 4 sides. Okay, top stitch along the edges. This is step 1F. Top stitch along the edges of the handle through all layers as shown. Note, this strap and handle piece will now be referred to as just the handle. All right, here we go. Okay, when you make your first stitch, I'm still going to do about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Make sure that your needle goes down, not at the edge of the handle, but 1/8 of an inch in, so that as you make that rectangle, your stitches all line up in like a perfect rectangle without any stitches hanging over. So with the picture of the strap is like this rectangle, so I'm trying to start 1/8 of an inch in from both sides. I might even use my hand crank here just to make sure. Okay. And don't be afraid to go really slow at this part, because your machine, if you have a harder time with thick layers, your machine will handle it better if you're going slower. And I did do a back stitch there. Okay, as I take my wonder clips out, I'm making sure I'm pressing down and keeping all these layers together and lined up. Take my last one out. And again, I'm going to go really slowly as I approach the edge and make sure I stop about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. One more stitch should do it. Okay, pivot, perfectly 1/8 of an inch away. And this one, let's see here. Is this 1/8? Nope, one more stitch. If your machine automatically stops with the needle down, that's really helpful when you're making bags because you pivot a lot. So my needle automatically stops down when I'm done sewing. And so that's what's helping me pivot. But if it doesn't do that, make sure your needle is down before you pick up your presser foot. Is this anybody's first bag? I'm curious. Anyone's first bag? If it is, this is a great first bag. Okay. Where did my... Oh, here we go. Okay. Here we go. Missy, it's your first bag. Congratulations. And Connie's. Awesome. All right, so now we have our nice, sturdy handle. And this is going to look so cute on your bag. We're going to do this one more time. All right, so take a deep breath. We're going to start by finding the center of our strap. Rebecca's first one, Laura's second. Awesome. And are all of you guys, I assume because you said that, you're all actually sewing along with me. Okay, marking the center of my handle. And I'm going to take it to my iron to press these raw edges in. Okay, we have those pressed in. Katie's second, awesome. All right, folding in half again to get that nice thick handle. Getting my wonder clips. To fold over. And your third wonder clip should be a little further from the edge just because you need some space for your presser foot to let down. Susan, first bag. My kit is autumn fabric, but I want to buy your fabric. Oh, good. Yeah, Susan, did you get the cozy up one? I think that one's really cute too. First bag with a zipper. All right. This was a class that I used to teach, or I had taught once when we used to do classes. It was about 2 years ago. And one of my students, it was her first time ever using a sewing machine, and she made this bag. So if that helps you, and she did amazing. It looked really cute when she was done. Going nice and slow here. Whoa, never mind. Okay, around all four sides. Nice and even. Awesome. Now we have both of our handles. So I hope you didn't find that too hard. Here we have that, and I'm going to set them aside. What is everyone sipping tonight? Because this is a sip and sew. So everyone should have a drink. Let's move on to step 2. Outside panels. A. I'm going to slouch so that my face isn't cut off. Pin handle. Oh no, we use this next. Okay, we do use the handles right away. I thought it was the next step. Pin handle to the edge of the long side of bottom piece. Handle shall be placed 5 inches in from each side as shown. Sew across handles 1/4 inch down from the edge to hold in place. Awesome. Nice and easy. Water, milk. Stitching the last strap. Rum, ginger. All right. Pam says, take a break so I can say hello. I'll take a little break if you guys are finishing up your handles. Lemon water. Prosecco? I don't know what that is. Prosecco or Prosecco? I don't know. Probably saying it wrong. Sorry, Katie. Okay. Everyone feeling good? Oh, Lynn, Earl Grey, just like Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek. That was his favorite tea. Our family's pretty nerdy. And I only found out recently that my fiance is not nerdy at all. And I said, well, be prepared to be introduced to a lot of very nerdy things. Because we watch Star Trek and all the Marvel movies and Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and all the things we've nerded out about at least one time in our lives. Sparkling wine. Oh, how very fancy. I'll have to look into that, Katie. All right, let's move along. Here I have my next pile that I made. So this is my shape flex. I don't need that yet. I don't need either of my interfacings yet, but this will come soon. So this is my outside top. I'm going to set that aside, but I'll use that in a minute. And this is my outside bottom. So I'm going to first check to see if it's directional. It looks kind of like this is the top because some of my, well, actually no, because I thought this jar was up and down, but this jar is the other way. So I don't think this is directional. So I'm just going to grab a piece. I like doing this on a mat because then I can measure in appropriately. Katie, I was thinking about doing Zoom. Maybe some of my sew-alongs should be Zoom instead of live. We'll see. That way I can see all of you guys. All right. So, I am going to get, it's 5 inches. I was going to say, did I cut 1/4 inch off here? But it's supposed to be 3/4, so that's fine. All right, it's supposed to be 5 inches in from the side, and I'm going to pin it in place when I find that. One of the rare things I use pins for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put that on here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, one thing to make sure of is that your handle is not twisted. So make sure you have your handle facing how you want it to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to go in here. It's 5 inches in from the edge according to this side of the strap. So your right side of the strap should be 5 inches from the edge according to the picture. Okay. Triple checking all of my measurements. Okay, so what I mean by twisted is that your handle and like the fold that it creates right here, they're both going the same direction. So my handle is flat, and both from the way it's coming from my handle up the strap is the same. So it's not like this side isn't turned over or whatever. So make sure that that's oriented correctly. And you're going to do that to both of your straps and outside panels. So let's grab this. Measure in 5 inches. Why do I keep misplacing my snips? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Making sure that they're both twisted the same way. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right, and then we're going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam from the top. So let's take this over here. I guess you could sew all the way across the top if you wanted. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sew the straps in place because we're about to sew all the way across the top when we attach the outside top. I never sew over my pins. I know some people do that. I never do. I'm too scared of it hitting the needle. All right, that is sewn in place. For both of these, now we're going to do step B. Place the top piece on top of the bottom piece and handle. Right sides together, sew a 1/2 inch seam along the top. So this is my top, and I'm gonna do this. And then after this, we're going to, once this is all one big piece, we're going to put our interfacings on here, and then we're going to kind of quilt it. It's top stitch, but kind of quilt the top piece with the interfacing, which is why we have a puffier interfacing with that fleece. So that's what that's going to do. Keep that in mind. Matching up my edges. I'm not going to pin this. I'm just going to match up these edges and sew a 1/2 inch along this top. You know, if we did Zoom, I probably couldn't do multiple camera angles, which I feel like is nice to have it up and down and then one at the machine. So thinking about it, how could I do that? You know, I actually don't know where my 1/2 inch is. Let me see here. I'm gonna have to measure. Needle's right here. Okay, it's gonna be, for me, at the edge of my presser foot if my needle is in needle left. Make sure your handles are still flat as you're sewing. It should be available forever. I mean, unless something goes wrong, there shouldn't be a reason this video will ever go away, Judy, so it'll be there on Facebook. I'm actually thinking about trying to figure out how to export these videos and put them on YouTube as well, just to make sure. Okay. That's one. Do my next one. Right sides together, of course. Half inch. Okay, wake up your iron. About to press some things. Peggy, I might be offering the kits again. Now that I'll have this available for replay, I might just offer the kits again somewhat soon so that I can say, go watch the replay, but I won't be doing this so long live again for another while, so I don't know. It depends. I have to get a lot more interfacing. I just ordered some. Hopefully it comes in soon. Because that's what we sold out of like crazy. 3 bolts of that interfacing gone. So we're going to, according to step C, press the seam down toward the bottom piece as shown by arrows, leaving the handle up on the top piece. So let's take these over. I'm just going to hang it upside down like this on my ironing board so that my strap is along the top. And I'm going to press. Every time I press, if you didn't watch my ironing tips video, I always put a little bit of tension so that I don't accidentally press a fold that I don't want. A fold really close to the seam can sometimes be easy to miss. Do that. Okay, work on these one at a time. All right, step 3, finishing the outside panels. A, press a 13.5 by 17.5 inch piece of shape flex to the wrong side of each outside panel, following manufacturer's instructions. Next, center a thermal lamb, or in our case, a fusible fleece, on top of the shape flex, a 1/2 inch space all the way around. Place glue side down and press following the manufacturer's instructions. So the fusible fleece is cut a little bit shorter than this panel, this outside panel is so that it doesn't build up a lot of thickness, unnecessary thickness in the seam allowances. Important, use a pressing cloth to lay over the thermolam. Press lightly to adhere in a few spots so you can flip the front panel over without the thermolam shifting. Oh yes, okay. I haven't used fusible fleece in a while, and it is hard to iron through that thickness, so they're recommending like tack it lightly in place and then press it from the fabric side instead of the fleece side because it's a little thicker. And you will avoid getting puckers and creases in the fabric. So let's do that. All right, so you should have 4 pieces of this fusible fleece that's 13.5 by 17.5 inches, and it's going to go on the wrong side of this panel we just made. And you do want to try to line this up as well as you can with the panel. They should be the same size. Okay, you can already feel that stiffness building up here. And then we're going to add one of our fusible fleece panels. Center it. I'm going to turn my steam off for this one. I don't think you're supposed to use steam for the fleece, but I also don't have my paper anymore. That came with my interfacing, so I can't go back and read that to be sure. You guys can let me know if you want. I'm just going to center this as well as I can, making sure that my glue side is down. Tack it in place. It's not going to adhere very well ironing from the fleece side. So I'm just tacking it in place a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it over and iron from my fabric side. And now I'll turn my steam back on. I just didn't want my steam going through the fleece. Okay, folding my strap back to get any puckers out of this fabric. So I did get, when I was pressing the shape flex on here and my handle was up, I did get some puckers along my outside top. So that's why I'm finishing the pressing from the top side so I can move the handle over and get those puckers out. So anyways, and then I'm going to just turn it over and make sure that all of my fleece, especially around the edges, got adhered, which it looks like it did. A little bit here in this corner, maybe. Okay, I just have this corner left. All right, this one is ready. Set that aside. They're nice and stiff now. It's kind of funny to feel the difference. Your bag would not be able to sit up as straight as my Mega Dream bag does without all this interfacing. So, makes a difference. Shape flex first. Making sure that my seam is still towards the bottom of the bag. This really doesn't need to be pressed for very long before adhering. And we're also going to press it again from the other side, so keep that in mind. Glue side down. I'm centering the fleece, turning my steam off, and I'm just pressing some of the edges in place so it holds down. Flipping it, turning my steam back on, and getting all the puckers out of this fabric. Interfacing is kind of crazy the way it works. It's just a bunch of little glue dots you gotta heat up, and then it sticks to the fabric for like ever, so works really well. Again, I have some of these puckers around where the handles were, so I'm just gonna make sure I get those out. Okay. Next up, we are going to quilt these handles down. All right. So if you watched the video I posted a few hours ago on picking out your fabric, you do want your straps and your bottom to look good together, but you mostly want these two to look good together because they're going to be quilted to each other. So this strap fabric is always going to be up against this outside top fabric. Okay, so what I'm going to do actually is pin the strap in place because I do not want that to move at all. I'm going to put 2 pins in it. What kind of iron do I have? I have the Rowenta Axis Steam. I do really like it. It's the one we have at the shop, and it's the one my mom has, and then it's the one I have. Okay, so you can draw lines on for your quilting if you want. I'm just going to use my presser foot as a guide. So I'm just going to look here and see how many inches do I have to work with. It says you want them a 1/2 inch apart starting from the bottom. So I'm just going to say, okay, I'm eyeballing here. I have a 1/2 inch over. So I'm going to make 7 lines, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. Is that what they have on this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 6, so maybe you don't need as many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, maybe let's just do 6 because we're starting. We're going to stop a good ways from the top to allow for all of that zipper stuff to be put in here. So using an erasable marking pen or chalk, mark 6 lines, a 1/2 inch apart on the top piece of the outside panel. Make sure to pin handles in place so they don't shift when sewing over them. Top stitch on the marked lines. Note, when I top stitch, I like to lengthen my stitch just a bit. Okay, that's a good tip. Let's lengthen our stitch. We pinned that down. I'm going to pin the other one down. And then I'll take a little break to give you guys time to mark yours if you want, but I am just going to use my the edge of my presser foot as a guide because I'm already going to have this line here to line it up with. I don't really need to also mark it, but if you want to do that, go ahead. Just make sure it is a erasable pen. It's kind of thick to get these pins in here. Okay. All right. I just ordered my wedding invitations, so that's fun. I got 200 invitations made for like $100, which was awesome. I just designed them on Canva and printed them off as postcards. And I thought, if you add the word wedding to anything, it instantly makes it more expensive. For some reason, it's so annoying. So instead of ordering like wedding invitations, I ordered, let me move this all the way over. I ordered postcards or something, and it was fine. All right, so I'm going to measure this again and just make sure that from my needle. Okay, so I just shifted my width. So you know how your machine will have a needle left and a needle center position. Usually it does not also have a needle right position. And so I just changed my width to 7 millimeters, which pushed my needle all the way to needle right. I'm going to lengthen my stitch to, what should we do, 3.5. It was at 2.5, so 1 millimeter larger than usual, because these are kind of more decorative. They are holding the straps in place, but there's so many lines you don't need them to be super tiny. So I'm just going to line up the edge of my presser foot with the seam right here. Gives you a perfect line to work with. And I'm just going to start stitching. Make sure I like that stitch length. Yeah, I like that. Looks good. Okay, doing the exact same thing. I'm lining the edge of my presser foot up with the stitches that I just created. All right, guys, I know it's going to be frozen. I just remembered my phone was also my internet connection. Let's see here if I can. All right, let me know if you guys can see me. I know that's super annoying, sorry. All right. Okay, Marie, I'm glad. I was hoping. All right, I'm quilting my second outside panel. Okay, I was hoping Julie. Has anyone ever seen the Netflix show The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt? Because I have the theme song stuck in my head right now. It's driving me crazy. All right, 3 more lines to go. Let's get this done. All right, one more. All right, done with the quilting. Here's what it looks like. Just gives a little bit of texture, holds down your handles. If you do this again sometime, you could even do decorative stitches. That would have taken too long to do today, but you could do decorative stitches. All right, on to the next page. Sweet, that's how you know we're making progress. All right, we're on step 4. So we can set aside our outside panels and grab our pockets and lining. Step 4A, press the remaining 2 13.5 by 17.5 inch pieces of shape flux to the wrong side of both lining pieces, following manufacturer's instructions. Then press the 10.5 by 17.5 inch shape flux pieces to the wrong side of both pocket pieces. Yeah, Lauren. This is it. Okay, so we're just going to press some interfacing on. This is my lining. Isn't it so cute? A little aqua turquoise with some safety pins. All right, this one has the 2 big interfacings, so I'm just going to press those together, line them up well. Actually gonna sew this from the fabric side again because I do notice that it will pucker a little bit if I don't do that. So make sure if you have any edges of the glue of the interfacing poking out and you're doing it from the top, you don't get it on your iron. Also, while I'm thinking about it, going to change my stitch length back to 2.5. Okay, there's that piece. How far apart? Sorry, Cindy, I just saw that. I did them roughly a 1/2 inch apart, all of the quilting. That's what the instructions said. So I just lined it up with the 1/2 inch on my presser foot, and then I did align the presser foot with the line of stitching, and then the next line of stitching, and the next line of stitching, instead of drawing it on. But you could also do that. Okay, just going to do the pockets next. Thanks, Annie. Yeah, I ordered samples in the mail, and they are so cute. I love them, so I went ahead and I ordered the rest. And I have a very dry, I think it's a Cabernet as well. It's so dry I can only take a couple sips at a time, but I do prefer it more dry than sweet, so. Okay, pocket number 1. You guys like this print, stitchy print? I have a pucker under my one strap where the outer panel is pieced. Jennifer, that could have happened during your interfacing pressing. One of mine, let me see. One of mine, I feel like that happened a tiny bit. Can you see that little bubble right here? I feel like you're not going to be able to notice it, but while I was stitching, I did see that somehow that happened. Actually, I might be able to press that out a little bit. I don't know. Not the end of the world, but... and then I also have tiny little pucker. Wait, right here. So it does happen. I really don't think you'll be able to notice it at all. But I think if that did happen, it was probably during pressing or adhering your interfacing. Oh, your pucker is vertical? Man, bummer. It's okay. You're probably most of the time going to have it like this anyways. So you won't even be able to see it. All right, all of my last pieces have their interfacing. Oh, this one has a little bubble on it, so I'm going to press it out there this way. Have it anywhere else? Okay. Just a tiny bit right here. All right. Fold the 2 pocket pieces in half lengthwise, right sides together, so a 1/4 inch seam down the long side only. Turn right side out and press flat with the seam along one side, top stitch an 1/8 inch from the folded edge. Okay, so these are my pockets. We're going to do this times 2. Take a pocket, right sides together. Reset your stitch length and your needle position from when you were top stitching. 1/4 inch the long side. So I have this folded in half. Also, if you're like me, your interfacing might be a little bit over the edge of your fabric or under the edge. So make sure that when you're lining it up, you're lining up fabric to fabric and not like fabric to interfacing to make sure that it's straight. Yeah, Ginger, that's why I iron the interfacing from both sides so I could flip the handle. Whoa, that went really fast. So I could flip the handle, but somehow I only noticed that it did that when I was quilting it. So, I don't know. That's what I mean by I can sometimes just let things slide because I'm like, oh, no one's ever going to notice that. But if that really bugs you, that probably is how to fix that problem. Okay, I'm just going to chain stitch this. So I'm just going to go right on to my next one. All right. I'm going to fold these right side out and then press them. So I just kind of make a cuff like this and I just reach in and I grab the next bit and pull the cuff down. Grab the next bit, pull the cuff down, just like that until I have it unrolled. All right, now that I have this, how am I going to press it? So I would say when you're pressing one of these things open or like flat and you want to make sure that your so the seam is going to be towards the bottom and you're going to top stitch the folded part. So technically if you don't press the seam perfectly, you're not going to be able to tell because it's going to be at the bottom of the pocket. But I would say I might even put my hand in here. Let's see how this goes. Put my hand in here. Because what I'm trying to do is what I don't want to happen is this. Where I'm pressing it, but it's not actually pressing the very edge of this seam. So I think what I'm going to do, I've never actually done this, let's just see, is do that so that my fingers are pressing out the seam as far as it can go. And I'm just going to press that down. Obviously, make sure you don't iron your hand. That would be painful. Okay. That in here. Spread this out. You guys can see how I'm doing this. Sticking my hand in there, pressing it out for a couple inches, holding it down, and then pressing some more. And because this is kind of thick and we really want this fold to be nice and crisp, I got my steam on, my heat up all the way, and I'm pressing it down for a couple seconds. But I don't want to get burnt by the steam either. Okay. There we go. Nice and flat. Very crisp pockets. All right, next one. Normally I'd probably take like a whole Saturday to make a bag like this. We're doing it in one evening. We're just gonna pound it out. Can do this. All right. Ta-da! I've invented a new technique. You know, just doing my job. I'm just kidding. All right, let's see. Place pocket onto the right side of the lining, positioning it 3/4 of an inch from the bottom as shown. Oh, sorry, we also have to top stitch. Top stitch the fold. The seam and the pocket should be at the bottom. Okay, let's top stitch this. I'm going to put my stitch length back up to 3.5 real quick, and then just top stitch it. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it down there. 1/8 of an inch over. Make sure you're doing the fold and not the seam. Look how crisp this is with the top stitching up there. Gorgeous. Okay, switch our cameras. So here I have my lining. And it says to position it 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. So I'm going to line this up with my cutting mat and then count 1, 2, 3 and 3/4 inch from the bottom. Mine's not all the way to the edge. Is that right? I think it's probably supposed to be. I don't know why mine's... How did I do that? 7 and... How big was this supposed to be? 7 and a half. Oh, looks like I cut it at 7 3/4 for some reason. 17, I mean. Okay, I'm gonna just cut that real quick. I'd rather have a too big problem than a too little problem. Hey, Catherine. Yep, still live. This one's gonna take us a while. Okay, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and a half. I guess I did this a little bit bigger. All right, 1, 2, 3 and 3/4. Perfect. And we're gonna stitch this to the sides and bottom. So I'm just gonna pin along here. Okay, this is also a good time to think about how far apart you want your stitches. So these pockets can be whatever size you want them to be. So the instructions suggest 3/4 of an inch in from the sides. So we would have 1, 2, 3 and 3/4. 1, 2, 3 and 3/4. So you could just do that and then one in the middle, or you could do that and like multiple. And the reason I am doing that is the pin, I couldn't find my friction pin. So I don't know if I can mark these lines. If you guys have, oh, here it is. Whew. All right, that'll be more helpful. Okay. So this is an iron off pin. I'm gonna mark 3 3/4 inch from the sides. Okay. I think I'm going to do one in the middle here, and then on my other one, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. So let's measure this. These are 10 inches apart, so I need it at 5-inch line. Okay. I'm just going to do this for both of them right now so that they're both ready to sew. Make sure that your top stitch is at the top as well. So this is the top of your pockets. Okay, and this is the one I want smaller pockets, so let's do 3 3/4 from the edge. And then on both of these sides. Okay, and then I'm going to put 3 pockets in here. So this is still a 10-inch gap. So, well, maybe I should just do, no, because I'm like 3 1/4. It wouldn't be exact, but that's okay. 3 1/4, 3, 2, sorry, I'm saying 2 lines for 3 pockets. So 1, 2, 3 1/4. So they're not going to be exactly the same size, but they're going to be pretty close. Okay. What do you use your pockets for to help us decide the sizes? Okay, let's look inside of my messy Mega Dream bag right now. Obviously, I have this pattern, and then I have my bigger items on the side here. Okay, rotary cutter, diagonal seam tape, spool of thread. Over here I have some scissors and like a little scissors case. I have like a skinny ruler, a little mini Dresden ruler. I have pins and extra machine needles, pins in little boxes. I have my sewer's aid oil. I've got a tabletop seam ripper. So those are kind of what's in there. It's kind of messy right now, but I also keep my little stash and store in here just because it helps everything stand up straight. So, yep. I was trying to think, what should I do with this one? Because I want to use this one for my sewing bag because it's all the sewing fabric. But now I don't know what to use this one for. I have to find a new use for it. It matches my sew together bag. This one, it's the same fabric. So, I don't know. Am I going to have to make a new sew together bag now? This is the bag that I was saying if you're watching on a Wednesday, I put a mini charm pack together to make this. So this will have to be a sew along sometimes, but honestly, this is probably going to have to be 2 parts because this took a while. All right, let's sew this on. So I'm going to sew the sides and the bottom and then the pocket lines. Does it tell me a seam allowance? It says a 1/4 inch seam, and then a 1/4 inch seam along the sides and an 1/8 inch seam along the bottom. I want it slightly bigger than 1/8 of an inch. It's just a little, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch is fine. Just follow the pattern, it's fine. This won't be thicker because you're sewing through the seam of your pocket. Thanks, Erin. No problem. I figured some people might be getting tired. 9, 11, 4:30. Like, that's when you wake up. That's very early. Cannot do that. All right, gonna sew my pocket lines now. Let's see, should I sew them? I think I'll sew them from the bottom up, just so like they're pressing the fabric from the stitches up instead of, because if you sew from the top down, there's just, if you do it right, it's fine, but there's a chance that you create a pucker, so I'm not gonna do that. Needle center, lining up my center line here. Oh my gosh, Erin, how do you do that? I'm going to try so hard next week to go to CrossFit with Matthew. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. He goes to a 6 o'clock class. I normally wake up at 7:30. And that's still sometimes very hard. I'm such a night owl. I've tried so many things over the years to try to go to bed earlier. And it's just very hard for me. So maybe I just don't have enough discipline. I don't know. But he wakes up at like 5:30. Mom, if you're watching, you came across as just so. I assume that's you, though. Hi. It made me nervous for a second because I was looking at this and, you know, I have the top stitches and I was like, oh no, I accidentally sewed my pocket shut. But it's just the top stitches makes it look that way. Very sharp. All right, and then I'm going to iron off these friction pen lines. They come off with heat. So there I have it. My pocket on my lining. Time for number 2. Changing my needle position. Sewing along 1/8 inch along the bottom. Yeah, Catherine, I think that's my problem. It's the whole working out in the morning. It doesn't help me start my day. It's never been like, oh, well, if I just push myself and I work out in the morning, then I feel better. I mean, it's harder to wake up, but I feel better. I've never felt better. I always like pass out in the middle of the day. So I think that's part of the problem. But I also don't do working out alone very well. And most of the people I know that do work out in the morning. So if I want to work out with people, I have to do that. So it's a whole thing. One more line. iron off my pen markings. All right, second one done. Let's see here. Moving on to step 5. Okay, guys, attaching the zipper. Here we go. This is the part most people have been waiting for. All right, I'm going to put one of my linings aside. Make sure that you're aware of where the top of your pockets are and where the bottom is, because to me, when it's lying flat, they both sides look the same because they're top stitch and stitched down. So make sure that you know where your openings are so that you're working with the top. And let's get this switched over. All right. So I have the top of my pockets facing up. I'm going to grab my zipper. And let's read these instructions. Open the zipper and lay right side up on lining, pinning zipper along the top edge of the right side of the lining. Okay, so my zipper is face up. So when it says lay right side up, it means the side with the zipper pull. So this is going to be facing up. Unzip it. Pinning zipper along the top edge of the right side of the lining. So this is my top edge, making sure my pockets are up here. So this is my top edge. And you want the edge right here to be flush. Then we're just going to pin along the top. You could use pins or Wonder Tape. Also, if you have a zipper foot, you'll want to use that for this as well. Makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to if you don't have it, but it will be easier if you use a zipper foot. I'm pinning a lot closer than I usually do just to make sure this exactly lines up. And this is also a longer zipper than you need, but I'm not going to cut this right now. I'm going to cut it at the end. Okay, so once I've pinned about here, this is where it gets a little different. It says, place zipper end on the left at the very edge of the lining as shown below in the first picture. Place a pin in the zipper 1 1/4 inch from the right edge of the lining. At this 1 1/4 inch point, bend the zipper down and pin in place diagonally. So I have this on my cutting mat. I'm gonna measure 1 1/4 inches and I'm gonna pin it down. So I have all of my pins going sideways here, and here I have it going up and down vertically. So I know that's where I'm going to stop. And then, well, I'm going to keep going, but that's where I need to angle this down. So you're angling this down because you're wanting it to get out of the way of the seams here. So when you stitch across, you're going to go straight to the edge, but this part of the zipper is not going to be tacked in place. And if it's helpful for you to see this, on my finished bag, this part of the zipper is loose, so it's not connected right here, so that you can unfold it and zip it up and all that and have all the space. So that is what we're creating right here, is this hole where the zipper is. Sounds good, Marie. See you later. Okay, and then over here, I'm going to use a Wonder Clip for this part. You're going to take this side and fold it at a right angle. Bend the left side of the zipper end up by 90 degrees as shown and pin in place. The zipper end will naturally want to stop bending at the little metal piece. So I'm just going to pin, or I'm going to use a Wonder Clip for this part, but I'm going to bend this up 90 degrees here. Okay. All right, so I've got that pinned. Now, let's see. Place Place one of the outside panels right side down on top of the lining zipper you just pinned, matching top edges and sides, repin across the top. Okay, so actually I probably should have made these pins stick out the top a little bit instead of going vertically, instead of doing them horizontally, do them like at a 45-degree angle. Because now what we're going to do is make sure that the handle is down, and we're going to take this part and we're going to line it up and pin it to what we just pinned. So I'm going to take that Wonder Clip out, line this up, and make sure that zipper is still folded at a 90-degree angle, and then re-clip it right here. And then I'm going to do the same thing as I take my pins out, line up the edge of my lining, zipper, and outside here. And you just want to take your time with this. Make sure you're doing it right. You're pinning all 3 layers all lined up exactly. You should be able to feel the groove where your zipper is right here. Deb, I'm just using my regular needle. I think it's a 9014. It's a universal needle or a quilting needle. I didn't really change it specifically for a bag. Unless your machine doesn't do a good time with layers, you might want, I think it's a smaller needle that helps with thick layers. Okay, have to go. Bye, Connie. Cindy, are you leaving the notches up or all even? The notches. Do you mean this? This one I made sure it was still folded up. In this side, I made sure it was still folded down, if that's what you were talking about. The zipper pull is still up. It's still face up. You can see in the picture of step 5B that the zipper pull should be up at this point. Okay? Yeah, Deb, I'm just using a 9014. I think it's working fine. Okay, taking this over to the machine, and I'm going to switch out my foot real quick for a zipper foot. Okay, so my zipper foot has 2 different sides to it. I'm going to put it on the left side because that is the side that my zipper teeth are on. Okay, this part's a little tricky when we're trying to keep this angled up at a 90-degree angle, but we have to take the clip out. So I'm just going to hold it in place with my fingers until I can put my presser foot down. Line that up, and it should still be angled down. So now what I'm doing is you can feel what's great about zipper feet, if you've never used a zipper foot before, is it has like a little... So let me see, how do I explain this? The foot part that's pressing down should go on the right side of the zipper so that the teeth of your zipper go along the side, and it helps you sew as close to the teeth as you can without actually sewing the teeth. Okay, so I'm going to start doing that. Making sure that, because my zipper is unzipped, make sure that you don't accidentally sew in place that zipper or your handles. So make sure everything is where it should be. Making sure my zipper is still out at that edge, okay? Make sure that all 3 layers are staying flush on the edge in your seam. Okay, then when you get to the part where your zipper is angled down, just make sure it stays angled down. So you're going to eventually sew off of the zipper tape and just be sewing the outside and the lining together. So this is what it should look like with your zipper tape inside of these 2 layers. Okay? Let's go back over here. So I've got my zipper tape in here, right there. All right, so it says, open and press seam toward the outside panel and away from the zipper teeth. So towards the outside panel, away toward, okay, and then you're going to flip over and lay the lining on top of the outside panel, wrong sides together, and press again on the lining side, pressing lining away from the zipper teeth. So you're basically just trying to press these away so that the zipper has room to zip. Cindy, I'm glad. Pulling my zipper teeth up as I sew along, or as I iron along, so that they're being pulled as much as they can out of that seam. All right, I'm gonna wait a second in case anyone is still working on that. Don't want to move on quite right away. I just had a little bit of overhang there. I just wanted to trim off. All right, everyone doing okay? As far as zippers go, this is a very easy one. So I made my interfacing a little bit bigger, so just wanted to trim the excess off. Thanks, Jennifer. I I know it's getting late, guys. This is a really long sew along. All right. All right, so this is what we have so far. We're going to have the outside facing up. Oh, no, wait. Let's see here. Lay the other one, so the one without the zipper, facing up. And then we're going to put this one outside down so that the outsides are together. And we're going to take the zipper, which should be facing, so the zipper is flat. There's no twists in it, which means that the zipper pull is now facing down. And we're going to line this up. Line this tape up on here, on this other one. Just like how we did last time, make sure there's no twists in your zipper. It's nice and flat. Line it up with this like we did last time. And then I'm going to make sure that this time I make my pins poke up a little bit, because when I pin my lining to this one, it's going to make it a little bit easier. So over here, make sure it's flush on the left-hand side and on the top. And just pin along. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing where we measure 1 1/4 inch from the edge. And we make sure that it angles down here. So it's going to be up. Oh, that's 1 inch. 1 1/4 is what I want. 1 1/4. Right. And then over here, using my Wonder Clip, going to pin this 90 degrees up. And you can see on the first one how us doing that made it so that we're hiding the end of our zipper tape so that the zipper starts at the little metal thing. So it makes it look a lot more professional and finished. So it's not necessarily a have to, but it does make it look really nice when it's done. Okay, now I'm going to take my lining. Make sure that your pockets are opening up so that your pocket openings are at the top. And we're going to lay this right sides together on top of it with this in the center. So it's kind of a awkward bulk in the middle here. Also, actually, before we do that, I'm going to say let's pin our straps down just so that they stay out of the way. So we don't accidentally sew them anywhere they're not supposed to be sewn. Right. Right sides together, line this up. Making sure we keep this 90-degree angle with our Wonder Clip and pin. It's a little bit annoying that you have to pin twice, but I think that the pinning in this case is necessary. You just have a lot going on, makes it a lot easier. All right, we're over here to the edge where my 1 1/4 inch from the edge is marked, and I'm going to pin that as well. And I forgot to pin this down, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Make sure this is down, it gets out of the way. All right. I'm going to go ahead and use my zipper foot again and sew this in place. Okay. Whew! That's it. That's the whole putting the zipper in part. We just need to iron this to the correct side now. And that's it. Hopefully you guys found that easier than you thought it would be. Is anyone still sewing with me? If not, that's okay. I know that people will be rewatching this and it'll still be helpful. I'm just curious if anyone's still awake. It feels so late. We're at 2 hours already. All right, let's iron this. Again, I'm going to be pulling up on the zipper teeth as I iron to make sure that gets all the way out of our seam. And we are going to be top stitching this later, so that will help as well. All right, good. Enough people here, good. Glad to hear it. Sometimes I think people sew better at night. That's usually how I am. All right. Press this new side the same as you did. Zip the zipper up halfway. Okay, I'm gonna zip it up halfway. Oh, okay, what's next? Every time we get to a new page, I get excited. All right, on our last page, step 6, sewing it all together. Let's see here. So we have this, and it is zipped up halfway. A, place outside panels together and linings together, right sides together. Pin all the way around. Be sure to mark a 5-inch opening in the lining bottom for turning. Note, pin the seam allowance in the zipper towards the lining. Also, pin the zipper tail to the inside of the outer panel and pin in place to keep out of the way while sewing. Okay, I get that part, but pin the seam allowance in the zipper toward the lining. Oh, I see. Okay. Gotcha. All right, this is what Lynn, a bit behind. Jackie, are you having trouble putting in your zipper? Is it just taking you a while? I can pause here for a second. Don't want my iPad to die either. It's at 35%. Okay. I'm gonna pin this back again. And then we want to pin this zipper tail right here. We're going to pin it in like to the outside panel so that we don't accidentally sew it anywhere it's not supposed to be sewn. And then we're going to go together here so that these are together and then the linings are together. And then it was saying pin the seam allowance of the zipper toward the lining. So we're going to line this up, and it is going to create bulk here. But what we're going to do is right here where the lining and the outside come together, we're going to make sure that those seams line up perfectly and that the seams are facing the lining over here. Because we want that to be going down. We don't want it to be going up. So make sure that when you get to that part, you're pinning those, or you're sewing the seam allowance down, or sewing the seam allowance to the lining side. Okay, I'm just going to pin at a couple key points. I'm going to pin where my pockets come together. I'm going to pin at my corners, make sure all my corners are going to match. Way over here. The tops of my pockets again. Also, okay, I'm noticing that I have a tiny bit here. When I have my corner pinned and the tops of my pockets pinned, I have a little bit of a bubble. And normally, I would just try to ease that bubble in. But I'm going to tell you, to create our box corners, we're going to be chopping our corners off. So I'd rather my pockets line up than my corners line up. So, and it's really just a tiny bit here. You can barely even tell. It's just a little bit of, it's just a tiny bit off right there. But I'd rather the pockets line up because you're going to see that more than you're going to see the corner, because we're going to cut the corners off later on. All right, over here is the same thing. We're going to line up these seams and make sure that the seam is headed toward the lining. Okay, keep an eye on that. I continue this way. Make sure that the two places where my bottom and my top meet, I want those to line up. And then I'm gonna pin another corner. And my last corner. Okay. Oh, one more. Pin where these two outer bottoms come together. There. All right. Now, we have to remember we want a 5-inch opening in the bottom of the lining. So I'm also going to mark that so that we don't forget. Going to mark my any 5 inches. So I'm just going to start a pin right here. I'm going to do a little X so that I remember that's where I start and stop. Measure over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does not have to be exact. This is just an opening for turning. I actually would make it a tiny bit bigger because we have a lot of bulk to fit through that hole. All right, here we go. I'm going to start at this X, go all the way around and end at this X. Oh, Helen, all right. No problem. You got this. You can do it. See you later. All right, gotta get my wine out of the way. I drink such little amounts of wine. I literally just take a couple sips. I can't drink very much of it, which is probably a good thing, but I always have extra left over. Okay, I'm starting at one of my X's. Pincushion. And what's my seam allowance? 1/2 inch seam. All right. And I am going to back tack this because I know that where my stitches are starting is going to be one side of the gap I'm turning the whole bag out through. And I want to make sure that it's not going to rip the stitches when I'm shoving all of the bag through this hole. I want to make sure it's nice and secure. So you know, they should have like a reality TV show. I just watched a season of Great British Baking Show, and I know they have Project Runway, but they should have one like that, but for quilting or projects. Instead of like fashion design, it should be like focused on the actual sewing. Okay, I'm also going to backstitch around any bulkness. So here at the bottom and the top of my pockets, I'm going to backstitch as well. Okay, here's the point where we need to make sure our seams are facing our lining. When we come to where our lining and our outside come together, make sure that the seams are pointed toward the lining. I'm going to backstitch there too. Making sure all of these obvious places, like where the outside top and bottom come together, line up as we go. This part's a little bit easier because we have our fleece is a little bit of a guide as well. A project sewing show. Yeah, why not? Should be fun. All right, pivot at the corner. Anytime I say pivot, I think of the episode of Friends where Ross is pivoting the couch. Without fail, I always think that, no matter what situation I'm in. Pivot. My sister Sydney thinks that's hilarious, that episode. Add another corner. I drastically underestimated how, I always do this, I drastically underestimate how much time this is going to take. Matt asked me how long, I said my sewing long's going to be extra long tonight, and he asked how long. I said, oh, probably about an hour and a half, and now we're at 2.5. Okay, just keep sewing. We're very close to the end though. Right, making sure that my outside bottoms line up. And as I approach this seam between my outside and my lining, I am making sure that the seam is facing the lining. Back stitching around that. Thanks, Jackie. All right, I'm approaching the other side of my pockets. And I'm going to back stitch at the top and bottom of these pockets again. Sorry, I know my camera's wiggling. It's on the table where my sewing machine is, so it's going to move a little bit. All right, I'm almost there. Half of this lining bottom. I know, Jane, it does always take longer than you think. All right, I'm going to stop at where that other X was. And we're done. Okay, we're done with that. And then now we have to make our box corners before we turn it right side out. Martha's sewing room. I've never heard of that, Rhonda. That sounds cool. Okay. Step 7, making the box corners. Let me grab a square ruler. All I have on hand is my black lock ruler, but that'll do. And my, I lost my friction pen again, of course. So bad at putting things where they belong. I'll just use a regular pen. We're going to cut this off anyways. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to, according to step 7, using a square ruler, mark a 2 3/4 inch square on each of the 4 corners. Be sure you, and this part is in bold and underlined twice, so it's important, measure from the seam lines, not the edges. Cut out each square with sharp scissors, making sure not to overcut at the corner point. All right, so we're going to use the seam that we just stitched as our edge instead of the edge of the fabric. And 2 3/4 is what we are doing here. So I have my 2 3/4 and my 2 3/4 from the stitches. Oh, that is right. Well, you guys can't see it. There you go. From the stitches, which is about, it's about, oh, sorry, 3 1/4 inches from the edge, but don't measure according to the edge. So I have my 2 3/4 here, 2 3/4 here. I'm going to draw this line. Okay, I'm going to cut that in a second. Do this to all of the edges, or to all the corners. 2 3/4, 2 3/4. I love sewing with Nancy. I don't know the other person spoke of. That's cool. So was this a TV show? Sewing with Nancy? Okay, so be careful here because this one, when you're doing the lining, you can feel the bottom of the pocket is very close by. So you want to make sure that you have an accurate line with this. I'm just going to measure twice. I'm at my 2 3/4 because that makes me nervous. It's so close to the bottom of the pockets. 2 3/4, 2 3/4. Okay. And it also says very specifically to not overcut at the corner of these boxes. So, all right. Makes me nervous. cutting right to that corner. Okay. There's my first one. Okay. Do that to all 4. I just recently heard that when you cut with your shears, you are supposed to cut from like here to here, like the full length of your scissors. If you only use one spot, like only use the back or only use the tip, you work like a bald spot into your scissors, like a spot that is like a dull spot. And I never thought about that. So since I heard that, I've been trying to be better about using the full length of my scissors. I need to oil mine and sharpen them. They haven't been sharpened in like a year maybe. I use them all the time. Just trying not to overcut this corner like they said. Okay. Last one. All right. Okay, I have all my corners out. (7) Pull corners open and match up bottom and side seams. Pin across the edge, keeping everything even and flat. So a 1/4 inch seam, making sure to back stitch at the beginning and the end of each seam. Repeat with all 4 corners. We are almost at the end, you guys. This is the second to last step. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to open this up. And we're going to line these 2 seams up open. And we're going to sew from this edge to this edge. Okay? Sorry, I don't know why I did that. Okay. And because you cut this, your stitches are going to start to come apart a little bit at these seams, so I'm just trying to do it as quick as I can. A 1/4 inch seam, back stitching at the front and the back. I'm also back stitching at the seam, those seams that we're lining up. You can still watch Sewing with Nancy on PBS. I watch her occasionally. Sewing with Nancy, great memories. She's no longer with us, however, she provided many, many hours of instruction. Oh, that's so sweet. Mostly women's clothing projects. Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that was a thing. Thanks for telling me. It's very fun. All right, we're going to do all of our box corners. Can you see this taking shape? Open these seams. All right, 2 down, 2 to go. On my lining side now. Okay, there's a lot of thickness in here because of the pockets. Just gonna have to work around it. I don't think you'll actually sew any of the thickness. Your 1/4 inch seam will just go very close to it, so keep that in mind. Last corner. So boxy now. I love how big this base is though. It's one of my favorite things about this bag is you can fit so much in it because it has such a thick base. Oh no, my bobbin thread's almost empty. My machine will tell me. Very sweet of it. Still have some top stitching to do. Darn it, I was worried about that. Okay. Da-da-da-da-da. Turn bag right side out through the opening in the lining. I find it easiest to push small amounts through the hole with my thumbs. Take it slow. It may also help to reach in and open the zipper all the way. Once your bag is right side out and reach inside and poke out box corners, also reach up to where the side seams meet at the top and make sure they are laying open to reduce the bulk along the top edge. Top stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric on the top of the bag, and then you make a little zipper pull, and that's it, you guys. Very close. Yes, the photos in this pattern are very nice. I think they're super helpful. Okay, I have my opening right here, and I'm going to reach in and I'm gonna unzip the rest like she says. Turn it right sides out and top stitch. So I'm gonna have you guys do your zipper pulls on your own. I'll just help you with this last little top stitching step. Just pushing in with my thumbs, reaching in, grabbing, pulling little bits out at a time. It is very thick, but this hole is plenty big enough for it. Be careful if you pinned any of your stuff not to poke yourself. I pinned my zipper and my handle's out of the way, so. Oh, it's so fun to finally see the fruits of your labor. Okay, I'm going to take out these pins. Da, 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 da. All right, so I'm just going to put a little bit more on this bobbin. Okay, So I have a little bits of thread to snip where I sew my pockets on. I'm going to push out these, before I sew the hole shut, I'm going to push out all of the box corners. Pushing them out. You can also use like a seam ripper or a purple thing or a chopstick or something like that to stick out your corners if you're having trouble with it. But there's not really a lot of thickness built up in these corners. Okay. Probably going to use this color again, actually. It's not that big of a deal. I'm getting tired, guys. Let's finish this up. Stick with me. Okay. So to close this hole, all I'm going to do is kind of reach my fingers in here to this opening, pull it taut, and it will automatically like fold in because the other pieces are folded in. And you're just going to top stitch that very close to the edge, like 1/8 of an inch. Make sure everything is flat and flush and everything. Back stitch. Okay. Put this lining inside. I'm so happy with this fabric. I love working with it. I'm definitely going to be making more stuff with it. We have some of these pre-cuts coming in, and I've had my eye on the layer cake because we have a pattern that looks like it's like has scissors and spools of thread and stuff that I'd love to use one day as a sewing room wall hanging, and it's a layer cake pattern. So, all right, so here is how our zipper looks. Zip's awesome, but you do want to top stitch to kind of give it the room that it needs to not get stuck on the fabric. So we're going to do that real quick. Also, you'll see that it has a pretty long tail. If you want, you could just leave it like that, or you could go ahead and zip it in a little bit and cut it to where you'd want to, and then that's where you would put your it's not a zipper pull, it's a what's it called? Just a tab, a zipper tab at the end. So yeah, anyways, you can do that. I'm going to take this off so I can sew a circle right around the top of my bag. So you might be wondering, as I did the first time that I made this, why don't we top stitch before it's a circle? Like while it's flat, why don't we top stitch it? But I've noticed that it is helpful to wait until this point because you kind of want to top stitch these seams down as well because it just helps keep them out of the way. Zipper tab, thank you. It's like not a pull, what is it? Okay, so I'm gonna go right here. Again, 1/8 of an inch from the top. I'm kind of pulling the base of the bag and the tape out as I go. Little couple inches at a time. And I'm just going to check in here and make sure the lining is still in place. still good. We're still good. Work it around here. Okay, as we get to this bulk in the seam here, I'm just going to try to finagle everything. I'm going to go very slowly. And we're good. No problems, no problems. Checking the lining, pulling out the zipper tape. You know, when you guys were talking about the old sewing show on PBS, made me think, we recently found out that you can listen to Lucille Ball's old radio show on Spotify podcasts. My mom and sisters and I listened to a couple, and it's so interesting. It's such an interesting glimpse into another time period. Because, you know, they didn't have podcasts, but they had radio shows, and it was basically the same thing. So it's really fun to listen to that. I haven't listened to a ton of them, just a couple. They're pretty short. She like interviews other famous people. Okay. This seam is a little bit harder for some reason. Slow, slow, slow. Alright, awesome. Made it. Almost there. We did it! Okay. You guys, look at that. Oh, it's so fun. So cute. Okay, so this is why you wanted your lining and your bottom to look cute together, because you can fold it over like this and use it to sit on your table. Have all your fun sewing stuff sticking out. There's the inside. Or you can zip it up and go. Oh, thanks, Rhonda. Awesome. Thank you so much for sticking with me for such a long time. And this was perfect timing. My iPad's about to die, so we're great. We made it. Thank you so much for getting your kits and patterns at Just Sew. We really appreciate it. And I had a lot of fun sewing this with you guys. I know it was kind of long. If you're rewatching this after, I do not blame you. If you made it all the way to the end, what a trooper. Lauren, Lynn, Pat, Julie, Annie. Lynn, you're up to the zipper. Okay, you can do it. Awesome. Loved sewing with you guys tonight. We'll definitely do something like this again. Sometimes it might be 2-part projects where we spend 2 weeks working on the same project. Some nights we'll just try to pump it all out like this one. We'll see how it goes. But I hope I see you guys on a future Thursday or Wednesday live. And I wish you the best of luck finishing your Make a Dream bag if it's not finished already. Make sure you post a picture of your finished bag on the Just Sew Along Facebook group so that everyone can see it. And I will see you on a future show. Good night, guys. Susan, Nadine, Rebecca, Judy, Deb, Cindy. Thanks so much for sticking with me, you guys, keeping me up. I'll see you guys later. Bye.